Hello and welcome everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to my Game of Thrones Legends mobile game content. So I had so much fun with one of my last few videos that I did where we did a tier list on some of the best heroes in the game. I'm going to go ahead and do that again, and this time we're going to do a factions tier list. So I definitely want to give some props to my boy Send It McSenderson. He's one of my favorite members on my Discord. He's constantly always looking for ways to interact with the community. He's very active on the official Discord, constantly helping people, constantly, posting strategies for people to understand what some of the best team comps are. He's the one that provided me with this link, and he said, "Hey man, I really enjoyed your faction video or your hero tier video that you did. Maybe think about doing one with factions." So I really do appreciate that. Send it, bro. Thanks for the idea. Props to you. You are such a awesome member of the community, and I want to make sure you get the credit you deserve, because you really do deserve it for sure. So let's get into this, and let's do a tier video on factions. So the available factions that are in the game right now are all listed here. We have the Lannisters, the Brotherhood, the Greyjoys, the Targaryen, the Free City, Free Folk, Boltons, Night Watch, Stark, Baratheons, and Greens. It's a very interesting spread as far as the factions that they chose to put into the game from the lore of Game of Thrones. And let me kind of blow it up just a little bit more to where you can see them a little better. I'm sorry about all the ads on this thing. It's nothing I can really do about that. It's aggravating, but it is what it is. Anyway, this is very interesting, the spread that they put in the game. Obviously, there were factions that you can't make a Game of Thrones Legends, a Game of Thrones period game without. You can't not have Starks. You can't not have Baratheons, Lannisters, that type of thing. But the ones that they did chose, and the Targaryens, obviously, are very interesting and very pleasing to a lot of people that are interested in the lore. Like me personally, my favorite is always the Targaryens. I really love the Targaryen story, the Targaryen mythos. A lot of people are really vested in the Starks, and I get that. They're super cool. And that's just, it's really cool to see the factions in the game. One of the ways that I like to approach something like this is I like to obviously talk about utility. I like to talk about the factions that are fun to use and are very useful and can get you through some tough content. So when you talk about some of the best and some of the worst, you kind of have to think about those kind of things as far as how much they're useful in the game or not. The one that I'm probably going to say is the least useful in this game is this one right here, the Free Folk faction. I do like Tormund, and I know that he's very useful, but the Free Folk faction in general, in my opinion, is just trash, because they didn't really do much with them, and they're just really not that useful. They're very situational, and their abilities just don't really help you in the overall picture. So the Free Folk is definitely going to be my first trash composition in this tier list. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me on this one. I know that, like I said, Tormund is a good character, and that type of thing. 1-1 is a good character. I get it. They are good, but the faction as a whole is what I'm looking at here, not just the individual players in those factions, because each one of these factions has a character or so that are really good, but that does not mean that the overall faction then is awesome just because of that one character. So remember, when you're thinking about how I rated these, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for the overall faction when I'm talking about rating them and not the individual players. So one of the next ones that I would probably be really close to putting in trash would be the Brotherhood. But I am going to go ahead and bump them up to C just because of a couple of the key players in that faction that have some pretty good usefulness for new players, especially starting out. The Brotherhood can be useful for new player accounts. So I wouldn't really necessarily say they're complete trash, although they could go there very easily. I could not argue with somebody for putting them in the trash category, but I'm going to go ahead and put them at C just because. I just don't think they're that useful and they're that great as a faction in the game. Now, one of the other factions that I think used to be super, super fun, and I would have put them at God tier all day long, was the Free Cities faction. Before they got nerfed, when the Free Cities were a big deal, and you could run through events in like 5 minutes using your Free City team, they were God tier all day long. I mean, they were that good. They were fun. It was really cool to have a good Free Cities team because not everybody did. They were kind of hard and expensive to pull for. I got lucky and I had a really good 4 and 5 star Free City team at the time, and that was sufficient to get me through a lot of content, a lot of events. Now, I'm just going to say that they're not really that great because of the nerf that hit them and caused the Dothraki dude to not be able to, carry the team like he did before. I'm going to put them down at C now. They are useful in some unique situations, but not like they were back in the day. Back in the day, they were God tier all day long. Now they're just kind of like a C, okay? Lannisters, I'm going to go ahead and put them at B because they have had some increase in usefulness here lately. They are pretty useful in the Crown's Challenge, which is a key mechanic in the game, so they're useful in that as well. A couple of the characters in this faction are very useful for events like Jaime and stuff like that. So the Lannisters as a whole are not a team that I honestly use very often, but I can see why certain people would love to use them because a lot of people really like the Lannister faction. I can see why people would love them. Their tie-in with the lore is really good, and I love a lot of the Lannister characters in the Game of Thrones universe, like Tywin, Tyrion. I love and Jaime. I love those characters. I think they're great as far as the story goes. As far as their usefulness in game, it could easily swap to a C at any point, but with the recent patches that went through the last couple weeks, I'm going to go ahead and say that they possibly have more usefulness than we've discovered at this time so far, and I'm going to go ahead and give them a little bit of a pass and put them on B for sure. One of the next factions that I'm going to say is pretty good, but it is very situational because it depends on how much money you can spend, because the Greyjoy's faction can be amazing, but they're only amazing if you have the money to take them to max level. If you have the money to take a Greyjoy team to 6 and 7 stars, then you have a team that is like amazing. If you don't have that kind of money, then they're just going to be kind of meh for you, because at lower star ranges, Greyjoys are not that good at all. But if you have the money to max out a Greyjoy team, they are amazing, and I'm going to say they're A tier all day long. I know I'll catch a lot of flack from certain members in the community that are absolutely love these teams, like Senior Muerte. I know he's going to have something to say about this. He's going to say, oh my God, those should be God tier all day long. And I get that, bro. I get that because you are one of the ones that have proven to us in the community that Greyjoys are actually a lot better than any of us had thought. But we did learn through your teaching that the Greyjoys were also somebody that are not really that great unless you take them to max level, and then they're amazing. So thank you for that, sir, but I'm not going to be able to put them at God tier just for that one fact that they're just not usable for most people unless they have a very high level. The Starks, I'm going to put at, well, what's going on here? This ad is getting on my nerves here. Okay. The Starks, I'm going to put at probably, this is a tough decision for me because the Starks are good. There's no doubt about it. The Starks are key in a lot of different places. They can be very useful for dragons. They're very useful for Crown's Challenge. They're very useful in raids teams. At the beginning of the game, the Starks were the best free-to-play option because they were easy to pull for. They were given to you at multiple stages, and free-to-play players could actually jump in and be somebody with a good Starks team. The Starks, however, did get a huge nerf about a month ago, and it really wrecked their utility. They're not nowhere near as good as they used to be, but they are still great. So it's hard for me to put them in God tier, but they're close. I will say they are close to being at that level, but I just can't in all good conscience place them at God tier at this time. A few tweaks to some of their skill sets and they could definitely be there all day. But right now I just can't do that sort of thing at this time. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave them at A and say that they're, you know, definitely not moving down, in my opinion. Could move up at any time. It just depends on a change to skill set for real. Baratheons, man, tough decision. I want to throw the Baratheons into God tier, and I really think they could deserve a place there. Oh, but I think they are like Starks for me. I'm a little worried about the Baratheon team going forward because the developers have made the statement that in the next few weeks they are going to do a tuning pass on the Baratheons, which means nerfs, basically, because this development team seems to only really understand how to nerf things and not really build counters. They like to, you know, make things hot and make things the meta and then nerf them so that they can make a new meta. It's all, you know, about making money, and I get it. They've got to survive just like every other business, but Baratheons are, some would say, God tier right now, which is hard to argue with because they are that great. Stannis the Manus and the gym damage teams that can be built with the Baratheons are just that good. But I'm going to go ahead and put them down to A tier because I know that the nerfs that are coming are going to wreck Stannis. I just feel it, because they can't stand to let something be awesome for too long before they got to ruin it for us. So I have a feeling that the Baratheon team is going to get nerfed, and if they are God tier right now, they're definitely not going to be after that's done. If I have to eat my words on this one and they actually buff them, I'll be very surprised to the point of shock. And if I have to place them back in God tier, I'll revisit this whole video just because of that. I'm telling you, but I doubt it. So honestly, I may have to end up doing this or this. It just depends on how badly they're hit. But right now I'm going to say they're great, and they're definitely worth your effort. Whether you want to do that knowing that nerfs are coming, not a good call right now, okay? Not a good call. Not one I'm willing to make anyway. Targaryen and the fire teams, I would have put these at A all day long and possibly God tier for the first 5 or 6 months of the game, and then steadily moving down to here for utility. To where we're at now, I'm going to go ahead and put them in B because they have been nerfed so hard. Rhaenyra's leadership ability, which was the best leadership ability in the game, hands down, has been nerfed to the point of just not good. Not as good as it was. The Targaryen fire team can still be decent, but it's so slow now that it's no fun to play, in my opinion. I like fast teams. I don't like teams that take an hour per battle. And that's what the Targaryen fire team has kind of turned into. Yes, you can stack 10 stacks of fire, and Daenerys can go off for a lot of damage, but it takes an hour to get there. So I don't really feel like the Targaryens are A tier anymore. I feel like they're B, and man, they could almost slide down to C with the way I feel about them now, as aggravated as I am with that, because it was my dream to build a fire team. I started off the game just knowing that fire was going to be the meta of everything, and that was going to be the way, because in every game, fire is always key, and Targaryens were my thing. I just knew that was going to be the way to go, and I made a mistake. I should have focused on Starks at the start, because that's where the good, really super awesome teams were at, and the fire team was good, but you were better off to build an all AoE team and not really focus on fire, because it wasn't the meta like I thought it was going to be. And then other things come about that killed, the meta for both of these pretty much, and now it's all about one faction that we'll get to here in a minute. The Night's Watch currently is, I wouldn't say trash, but I wouldn't say B. I would say probably C right now. This one's tough. This one could go B or C. It just depends on what people find to do with Benjen and with Will and the other one that was released here recently. Can they be good in combination together? I don't know. We're still trying to figure that one out, because that's going to require a little bit more stars than most people have on these characters at this time. So that's going to make this a tough call. I'm going to go ahead and bump them up to B, though, because honestly I feel like the Night's Watch will come on better later after people have a chance to really kind of build around them. So I'm gonna go ahead and take them from C to B, because I just don't think they're on the same level of unusefulness as the Brotherhood and the Free Cities are now. I think they're a little bit on par with Lannisters more. Targaryen would be at the top end of this level probably, but Night's Watch definitely fits into a B for me right now. Okay, then we have the Boltons. These are somebody that have recently, I would have put them here or possibly here, because I just never liked them and I just didn't think they were great. I think they fit here really well before, but now with the recent updates to their team and their faction ability, a high-level Bolton team can be scary, and they can be really good. The problem is, same thing with the Greyjoys. A lot of people don't have the ability to have a lot of stars on the Boltons that are necessary, like Roose and them. So it makes building a really strong Bolton team kind of difficult, but we're getting there to where people are starting to get their teams fleshed out, and they're becoming a lot more scary to come up against, because those stacks of bleed can really hurt you when you do a lot of damage. So they are definitely becoming a more pleasing option as far as a good faction to kind of build a synergy around. Me personally, I do not like the Boltons. in the lore. So that I guess I'm just, kind of like that. If I don't like some faction in the lore, I won't really put any effort towards building them. So I guess I'm just kind of picky like that. I don't know. And that's kind of why I focused on Targaryens at the start, because they were obviously my favorite. Boltons are one of my least favorite in the lore, and that's just kind of one of the reasons why I never really wanted to put any effort into building them, because if I'm going to build a team, I want it to be something I enjoy to play, and I just never really liked the idea of playing as a Bolton, because they just are a bunch of scoundrels, really. I just I don't want to play with a team like that, but I know that they're good, and I know that a lot of people have been giving me fits with these teams, so I'm going to have to put them here. Even though I personally don't like them, I know that they're good, so I'm going to put them in an A team. Okay? So now I saved this one for last because it's obvious where this one is going. You knew this. You knew this was going to be a thing from the second I said I was going to make a faction tier video. Every single person that was watching this video could have made the call that I was going to take the greens and put them in the god tier. The greens are just that good. The greens are still the meta for everything, basically. If you need to kill a dragon, build a green team. If you need to do well on an event, build a green team. If you need to do well in the Crown's Challenge for the one that they can compete in, build a green team. If you need to do raids, you build a green team. Those are the teams that surpass and are the meta. Personally, I did not like the greens when they first came out, because again, just like the Boltons, I do not like this faction in the Game of Thrones lore. In the House of the Dragons lore, I absolutely hate the greens because I think they're a bunch of dorks, and I don't like their people that play those roles and stuff. I'll probably get a lot of hate for that comment, but I don't care. It's how I feel, so whatever. But the greens were so good that I eventually had to come down off that hill and start to invest in them. And I'm behind now, and it's really hurting me. I'm at the 4 and 5 star range when most people that invested in greens are fully maxed out. And they're reaping the rewards of that because those teams are so good that they're owning everything. So kudos to you if you had the foresight to see that this was going to be the meta and you bought in right away, and you've been enjoying your green teams for so long now. Eventually they will get hamstrung. It's just going to be the way it is. But the design of the green team's faction ability with the birthright mechanic that allows a lot of burst damage at the start makes them key, makes them meta, because that's what it's all about in a game like this, is hitting hard and hitting fast, crippling your opponent right away, getting it over with, killing half their team by turn 2. And that's how you win in games like this, and that's what the greens are built around. I should have seen that all day long, but I think, just like I said, my dislike for the actual lore of the faction caused me to be late to the party, and I hate that. Just like I hate the way I floundered on the Targaryens for so long and missed out on the Starks, I did the same thing with the Greens. But I'm using them now, and they're my go-to for just about everything at this point, except for a few little specialized events teams that I like to use. I use Greens for just about everything. So that's my faction tier list. I'd be interested to see what you think, if you agree, or if you say, nah, man, we should take this one and do this with it. I'd like to hear that, because if you feel like I, didn't really give the kudos to a certain faction that deserved more, let me know. Or if you think that I overplayed some of the factions and that they should be lower, let me know. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Share links to your faction builds if you want to. You can see the link that I've got in the window up here. You can pause that and then go to it, and then you can try to build your own and see what you think. And then props to Send It for sending me the link to this so I can make some content on it. This was super fun, and I appreciate that. I really like these kind of videos because this gives me a chance to talk about something different rather than constantly making the same old thing all the time. Let's do raids. Let's do a, summon event thing. It gets old after a while and stale, and these are kind of interesting and fresh and new, and I really appreciate the help on that. So thanks for watching my content today. If you've enjoyed this, please think about liking and subscribing. I'd love for you to join me in this adventure, and I appreciate your time. I'll see you in another video about Game of Thrones Legends coming soon. I hope you have a great weekend. Peace!